Well, Patty, it is a brand new year,
Yes,
which
it is.
means it's time for the RV show season to start.
Yep.
And I thought today what we do is talk about some of our tips and tricks for visiting an
All
RV
right.
show in this episode of Travels with Delaney.
The podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome back. My name's Patrick.
I'm Patty.
And if this is your first time here, thank you so much for listening to our little podcast.
And if you're watching on video, this is our little man Truman and little Bess. I think they're trying to keep their feet warm. It's awfully cold here.
Yeah, and if you're listening on the audio version and you want to see the cute little Cavalier pups of ours, go over and check us out on our dedicated channel for the podcast, Travels with Delaney, the podcast. Yeah, I know. How creative. We also have a full-blown YouTube channel dedicated to RVing and the RVing lifestyle, just called Travels with Delaney.
Yeah.
So. All right. So before we start talking about RV shows, Patty, we have to play another episode of This or That.
Okay.
So we're going to put Patty in the hot seat. Again, Patty, you're always in the hot seat.
I know.
I don't know.
Boom Boom's going to get fried
I
here.
know. So, all right. Well, it is super cold outside, Patty.
Oh, my goodness.
Because it is January in Northeast Indiana.
Well, I think we went to we're like in the North Pole right now. It's frigid.
Yeah. So, today's question. If you had to choose your climate, do you prefer the Arctic cold that we're experiencing right now? Or, it's like the lesser of two evils, do you prefer the super hot, humid weather in the summer where it's like over 95 degrees and high humidity?
This is a toughie.
Yeah, because again, it's like it's the lesser of two evils. Normally, it's something fun.
I think, well, shoot. There has to be some disclaimers here.
Okay.
Because, if we're in the over 95 hot, humid, do I have access to air conditioning or a pool?
Well, yes, of course you would have access to air conditioning.
Okay.
Just like you have access to a warm home in the winter. So Jim only has so long of a ticking clock here for sound effects.
This is a tough one. I think I'm going to go with the extremely hot, high temperatures.
Okay.
Because I can get cooled off in a pool or air conditioning. I know I can stay warm in the house,
right, but
you're kind of confined to the house. At least if you went out in the heat, you could be out there a little bit.
Okay.
You'd get some good skin because, you have to drink a lot of water. Your skin, sweats, all that stuff.
Right.
But I'm going with the heat.
My
knee hurts in this cold.
Well, and I'm with you. I hate winter anymore.
It's just too cold.
Like, I don't think I could even put into words how much I hate winter.
I think I'd rather be drippy wet than freezing cold.
And here's the thing. We've lived in Florida in the summer, albeit back in 2001, 2002, when I don't think it got nearly as hot as it does these days, seriously. Or maybe it's just because we're younger. But, we didn't seem to mind the heat down there.
No.
And we were working outside. You just stayed hydrated.
Well, and I think part of it, we were working at Disney. We were having lots of fun.
Well, that
but
might be it, too.
We were trained to drink lots of water.
Yeah.
They gave us that humongous water bottle and you went to the area and got ice and water and you were constantly filling that up.
Right.
I had the best skin that summer.
Yeah. So, but anyway, all right.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into it because it is January 2024, most likely when you're listening to this. And when this goes live, the Tampa RV Super Show will have just ended. And that kind of kicks off the RV season each year. Mm-hmm. And then it always kind of wraps up in September with the big Hershey show. Mm-hmm. But I thought since a lot of our listeners, those of you listening right now, are probably going to maybe be thinking about going to the RV shows, we would share some of our tips and tricks for how we do RV shows.
Yep.
Now, I'm not sure, Patty, this year we're going to go to any RV shows.
I don't think I need to.
No, because we just bought a new RV, and so we tend to go more when we are looking.
Right, when it's like we want to look, and I don't need to look.
Which is about every 2 to 3 years we get the bug.
Kind of get this, drive to go out and see what's there. And
sometimes we go just for fun,
with friends
but I don't think this year we will. But if we were going, number one, you can find RV shows in all shapes and sizes all over the United States. You do not have to plan a trip to Tampa or Hershey to look at RVs. We just go to
our local Fort Wayne.
Yeah, area. So, the Fort Wayne show has been going on for years. It's held at the Allen County War Memorial Coliseum, and it's a decent-sized show.
Right.
But I mean, I've seen shows as real small, where it's like one dealer in a parking lot at a retail shop.
Right.
All the way up to these massive shows like Tampa. I think the key is when you, number one, just go online. You can Google anything.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, the other day, Patty made the comment, I threw out some random fact, and what did you say I was?
I go, man, you're just like, I need to call you Google, because when we were younger, I said you'd have been like, man, you're an encyclopedia.
Yeah, you said you're a walking Google. And I go, excuse me? And you go, well, it used to be we called people walking encyclopedias, and now nobody uses the encyclopedia, they just Google.
Right.
But the truth is, Google RV shows in your area, and most likely you will find lists of RV shows. So if you're not sure where to go. And the second thing is, every RV show is going to be a little different. So I would recommend, when you find a show you're thinking of going to, do your research if you can ahead of time. Find out what dealers are going to be there.
Right.
What manufacturers are going to be represented.
Because it might not be what you want or what you're looking for.
Exactly. A good example is, I don't know that they ever have new camp products at the Fort Wayne RV show.
No, they don't. You would have to go other places.
Right.
I'm not sure where that would be. But
so if you thought, hey, I want to go look at the new Camp Tab 400, and you go to the Fort Wayne show, you're going to be very disappointed because they're not going to have one, most likely.
Right, because we know, like, at the Fort Wayne show, they usually have the bigger rigs.
Right.
Or maybe some pop-ups, maybe. But, yeah, usually bigger ones.
Or your manufacturer may be there that you're looking at, like Grand Design may be represented, but they may not have the specific model you're looking at. So I know last year when we were at the Fort Wayne RV show, there was some Grand Design product there, but it was all big toy haulers and fifth wheels, nothing in the smaller
sizes that we were even considering.
So I would just do some research, because if you're going thinking you want to look at a very specific manufacturer or RV model, you might want to find out ahead of time. Now, that doesn't mean you wouldn't go to the show, because you may discover other manufacturers, other models. But if you're honing in on a very specific one, that might be something to consider.
Sure.
How would you find then one? Well, then you're going to have to expand your search for RV shows, and you may have to, and we've done that before.
We've
driven because we wanted to look at a very specific model.
Right.
And so we would just find out where it was going to be. And a lot of times what you'll do is you'll find a show, and maybe it would say, like, let's say you're in Florida and you find out there's a show, not Tampa, but a smaller show.
Right.
And it says Gerzeni's is going to be there. I would just call Gerzeni's and say, hey, I see you're going to be at the XYZ show. Will you have a new Camp Tab 400 on display?
Right.
You know, and they'll let you know what they're taking, because trust me, these dealerships plan for these shows months in advance.
Oh, yeah, they have to.
Yeah. I mean, a good example, I don't know how PJ does it. I mean, when you think of the size of Princess Craft, it's not a huge, I mean, I know they have 2 dealerships now, but they don't have a ton of staff. But what PJ and Lindsay and Clint and the team are able to do in terms of getting all those RVs to, let's say, like the Austin show every year.
Yeah, that's got to be a feat.
Yes, and then I know I've heard PJ say this, when the show closes, let's say on Sunday at whatever time it closes, they only have so many hours to get all those RVs out of there.
Right.
And so they've spent all these hours working the show, or days working the show, and
then they have all these drivers that come and
start hauling them away.
And take them back.
Second thing, Patty, I think is important is you really want to have maybe a game plan going into it.
Right.
Now, if you've never owned an RV and you just want to go explore, then maybe you don't need a game plan. But if you're seriously considering either buying your first or upgrading, I think it's good to have a game plan, because I don't know about you, but I went to RV shows with no game plan, and it's almost overwhelming when you get in there.
Well, it is, because you're just like, where do we start? What do we look at, you know?
Well, I know where you start
at
every
RV
show.
At the almonds.
I know. Every time we go to an RV show, I swear there's one of those almond roasters.
I smell the almond roaster, and that's where I go
Patty's
first thing.
Boom.
So I need a little snack as I'm walking around looking at these rigs, and so I go right there.
Yeah.
Get my hot roasted almonds.
And I think it's real easy to be like Truman and Bess and get distracted, like squirrel.
Yeah.
You know, so we go in, we have no interest in buying a Class A motorhome, and yet somehow we're touring Class A's like we've got the money to buy one. You know?
Right.
And so then what happens is I don't want to say waste a lot of time, but we do. On stuff that you're never going to buy.
You do.
And I tend to do that very easily, because I love RVs. Big, small. You know,
you get distracted.
I get distracted really easy, but I think, you know, if you know you're looking specifically at fifth wheels, then you should go in with a plan of, you know, we're going to look at fifth wheels. Or if you are strictly looking at Class C motorhomes, just because here's the thing: even if you go early in the morning and you plan to stay all day, it can be over. I remember Hershey. We've been to Hershey. We've
That
never
was
been to Tampa.
mammoth.
I can't imagine
No.
if you didn't go in with a game plan.
One, you'd get lost.
Yeah, no
It was
kidding.
so huge. And two, you just gotta. There was to be so many distractions.
Yeah.
I think you would have to know, because usually, they give you, you can find online maps, kind of where they're going to be located once they set up the place organizes where all the campers are going to be from the different, camper, trailer sales, and you can kind of have an idea of which, especially something so big like that, where you want to go. And probably there you'd want a golf cart because that place is huge.
I don't think they allow golf carts
That would
except
be
for
great.
but yeah, that would
Why
be.
not?
I don't know. Maybe they do. I don't. But
Hmm.
yeah, so it's good.
I would
So
need a golf cart.
Patty's game plan is always almond guy.
Almond and restroom.
And know where the restrooms are, and then whatever we're specifically looking at.
Yep.
All right. Now another thing we've noticed is if these RV shows will typically run for anywhere from 3 to 5 days,
Right.
sometimes a little shorter, maybe
Yep.
sometimes a little longer. If you can go early in the week,
It is so much better.
yes, and here's why. Like our Fort Wayne show, if you wait till Saturday,
It is chaos.
yeah, there's just so many people. It's hard to even get into the
You
RVs.
can't even get your almonds.
Well, there's a line for the almonds if you go on Saturday.
But I like
Where-
to go early.
Yeah, and I think that show actually starts on Thursday afternoon.
Right.
And so ideally, if you could allocate the time to say, hey, let's go Thursday afternoon when they open, or even Thursday after work,
Yes.
you're going to be able to see a lot more and get a lot more intimate with the
Yep.
RVs, meaning you're going to be able to sit down and try out the theater seating or
Right.
sit in the dinette to see the space. You go on Saturday, there will be so many people. Right. It's honestly, last year we live streamed from the Fort Wayne show.
Oh my goodness.
And I was like this wandering reporter roaming around. I was literally stuck in an RV. Like
get
I got
trapped.
in and I couldn't get out because there were so many people in the
You
RV.
get cornered. Yeah.
So if that's now for some people with work schedules, you just can't do that. But if you can, I would recommend going the first day the show opens because it's most likely going to be a lot less crowded. I also think the last day of the show, later in the evening
Would be
or near
perfect.
the closing
Yep.
time. But just know that, number one, near the end of the show, a lot of those dealers are thinking about going
How to
home.
get those things home.
Yep. And number two, you're going to have a limited amount of time because when the show closes, they're going to kick you out. So, that is something to be mindful of.
Now, if you have to go on the weekend,
If you have to go on
I think
Saturday
you
or
go
Friday,
I think you go in the evening.
yeah, and I would say, and I don't have any definitive data on this other than just our own personal experience. Friday evenings can be busy
It could
because
be.
it's like the start of the weekend, so a lot of people will go out to dinner and then head to the RV show,
Right.
or vice versa.
Yep.
Saturday, we have found, usually in the evening, does tend to slow down.
A little bit, yeah.
The problem is if you wait till 6 o'clock and the show's only open till 8, that's only going to give you a couple hours to go in and explore. But there may be a few fewer people than had you win at noon.
Now, if you're where we live and you're at one and all of a sudden a snowstorm hits, that's even better.
That's even better because we found when the weather is bad, if you're
People
willing.
leave.
Now, we are not
doing
we are
that.
not advocating driving in bad weather,
No,
but we have. So, and there was nobody there.
Nobody there, and then you could actually look
And talk to, yeah.
and talk to the dealers and look at the brochures and
Right.
kind of look at all the storage that you want to look at in the awning.
And I think
everything.
that's the good thing is one of the benefits of going to a show is many times we have found there will be representatives from the manufacturer. So don't get me wrong, you can talk to the dealerships and get questions answered.
Right.
But sometimes it's good to talk because here's the thing. Dealers will sell lots of lines of RVs from lots of different manufacturers. They don't always know. It's hard to know
they
everything.
don't know everything.
But when you can be at the show and talk to a rep from New Camp,
then you're in.
they know their line,
Yep.
or a rep from Lance, or a rep from Alliance. You see what I did there?
I see that. You're just clever.
Yeah. Promoting all my favorite brands. And by the way, we are not paid by any of
Nope.
those brands,
Nope.
nor do we want to be.
Nope.
But no, but that's the thing. Like, had we have been able to gone to a show last, year
Right.
where there was an Alliance
Yeah, we couldn't
dealer.
find
We
one.
didn't find an Alliance at a show.
No.
But had we been able to talk to somebody from Alliance, I think we could have asked a lot of specific questions where, because they work directly for Alliance,
Right.
they would know more about
Sure.
their RVs than
Yeah.
just the dealer.
Right.
And that's no slam on dealers because,
No,
again,
it's just so many.
oh, yeah, I mean, I can't imagine trying to.
I don't know how they learn all that stuff.
You know,
so.
it's not like car dealers where, a car dealership sells Chevy.
Right, and they're
Or-
pretty.
And they know a lot about
about-
their different models of Chevy. But if you think about it, RV dealership, I mean, they may be selling, well, let's think about Princess Craft. I'll try to do them, and I won't even be able to name all of them.
No, but they got
New
that.
Camp
Yep.
and Outdoor RV, and they do. I think they have R Pods.
Did they have Little Guy?
They have Little Guy, Coachman.
And all of
Yeah, I mean, they just got a bunch. So, I mean, how could somebody in sales know everything about everyone?
to the nines. You have to know every little detail. Yep.
All right. Here's another tip, Patty, that I think is good.
We've done this
We've done
before.
this before. We go to the RV show, we look at a lot of stuff, and then we get
With
home
our almonds.
with our almonds, and then we're sitting around with our almonds at home, and we're like, now, did that one have? And we're like, I don't remember. Did that one have?
I don't know.
So one of the things we started doing, not just because
Yes.
we're YouTubers, but is we would go and we would either take video in the RVs,
Right.
or we would take photos of the
Mm-hmm.
RVs. We would also collect the brochures from the different manufacturers and make notes so that when we got home, then if we're like, well, I like RVA, but I also liked RVB, what was the difference? We could go back and either look at our photos
Right.
or we could look at that little video. And again, the video, not for YouTube purposes, just for our purposes,
Just for me.
just kind of scanning the
Yeah.
inside of the trailer, or maybe Patty saying something like, I really like this bathroom. Look at this. It has a seat in the shower.
Right.
And then that way we could go back, and maybe we didn't remember that when we got home, but once we saw that little clip, we're like, oh, that was the difference.
After looking at all of them, they all mesh together.
They really do.
It's like, oh my, it's a gobbledygook in my brain.
It's a gobbledygoo. Wow.
That's what I say at school. Don't make your writing a gobbledygook.
I've heard people say that they're living rent free in my head. I don't think I want to be living even free in your head if it's a gobbledygook.
Yeah, I know.
So anyway, but those are just some of our tips
Yes.
to try to maybe help you out if you're
Yeah.
heading out looking for a
helped
new
us,
RV.
yeah.
Now, I'll give you a bonus tip for this season.
Bonus.
Bum, bum,
Bum,
bum. Would that be the right sound for a bonus tip?
Or
Anyway.
there we go.
Okay, focus. See, squirrel. No, this is what I wanted to say is one of the things we have seen, or I have seen from some of the manufacturers new for 2024
Yes.
is they are coming out with new lines where it's still a Lance, let's say,
Right.
but it's a Lance, and I can't remember what they're called. It's a different line made by Lance, and a
Right.
lot of the manufacturers are doing this. And the reason they're doing this is, in my opinion,
What do you think?
they
Wise one, tell
they
us.
overpriced their RVs after post-COVID from
Okay.
2020 through
So they're
2022.
trying to rebrand them.
They don't want to drop the price
Mhm.
on, let's say, a Lance.
Okay.
So we'll make a lesser price Lance under a different name. It's still made by Lance.
Gotcha.
And because they have literally priced people out of the market.
Okay.
I was just talking to our friend and producer, Jim Kuzman,
Yes.
right before we
Thank you,
recorded this,
Jim.
because he is currently, at the time of recording, at an RV show.
Yes, he is.
And he was saying that the RV that they paid less than $50,000 for a few years ago, a couple years ago,
Yeah.
I think it was in 2021, is now listing for over $70,000.
Woo.
So, as he said, we would not have been buying that Lance.
Oh, no.
So, these manufacturers have priced people out of the market.
Okay.
So, they've got to find a way to get
Bring 'em
some
back
people
in.
back in,
Okay.
but they don't want to drop the prices because that would look really bad
Right.
in their eyes.
Okay.
Instead of just admitting, like, hey, we
messed
had to charge
up.
more because prices went up,
Yep.
but prices come down. And so anyway, that's something to be aware of. And so it's very possible that when you go and look at a Cougar half-ton towable, let's say,
Okay.
you're going to see that. You're going to see a price. And then maybe right beside of it is the Cougar Sport. And you're like, wow, this fifth wheel is so much less expensive. Trust me, there is a difference, and there's a reason it's less expensive. You're probably going to get less features on it than you would get. So, like and I wish I remembered what Jim said the name of the new Lance line is. He said, look, it's still a Lance. It's still got the quality build of a Lance, but they went back to things like the glass windows, and in their model, there is no front window. And in his model, when he bought it with the higher Lance line,
Right.
you get things like the Truma water heater.
Right.
And he was saying in this cheaper line, it was just your basic gas water heater. So just understand as you look at some of these and you're like, oh, there's a Grand Design branded trailer, but it's less expensive. It still may be a great RV.
Right.
It just may not have all the features,
The bells and whistles like what you're thinking.
that you're thinking you're going to get. And so it's possible that you just have to decide which RV is right for you.
Right.
But it might be something to where you're looking at that shiny Cougar Sport at, let's say, I'm just going to make up numbers, but say $35,000 because that's what they were selling for last year.
Right.
And then you're looking at the Cougar half ton for $10,000 more.
Right.
That's where you really have to decide what is my budget and what am I looking for feature-wise, because you might be ahead to spend that extra money on the Cougar half ton because it may come with things like free lithium battery. I say free. Let me rephrase it. It may come with lithium batteries
free,
included.
honey.
Right. Nothing is free.
Poor boy. He's delusional.
And it may come with more solar, and it may come with things that you might not get on that Sport. But if that Sport fits into your budget better, and you can live without those features. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. You're going to see a lot more of that where these brands are going to break out. It's what we call market segmentation. They're coming up with
fancy.
I know. Ooh, fancy.
Your synapses are connecting, honey.
I know. So.
All right.
So anyway, Patty, hopefully that helps some of our listeners out there. And, as you head out to the RV shows this spring.
Yep, absolutely.
Huge shout out to our friend and producer, Mr. Jim Kuzman.
Jim.
Always taking care of us, getting these things edited so we can get them out to you. And until next time, everybody, we'll see you.
On down the road.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Travels with the lady. We'll see you on down the road.